Sharma. Welcome back to Punch-Ons to celebrate the fact that we got the belt back. And of course, I'm talking about Alex Pereira taking out Magomed Ankalaev, beating him into a pulp last weekend at UFC 320. The UFC has decided to return us to Brazil this weekend, and we have got UFC Fight Night, Oliveira versus Gamrot to talk about. This video will be my full card predictions, breakdown and betting angles for this week's card. We've got a stacked Brazilian fight night. We've got Charles do Bronx taking on Mateusz Gamrot in the main event, who's filling in on short notice. Figgy Smalls is taking on Montel Jackson in the co-main. We've got Vicente Luque on the card, Yoel Alvarez, and many, many more. Overall, this card is looking to be another one of those 6.5 out of 10 on paper cards, just stacked with a lot of homegrown talent, a bit like the Perth card we had the other weekend. So, look, these homegrown cards are always a lot of fun. We've been doing really good on picks lately on the channel, 9 and 5 on UFC 320 with both of our locks of the week cashing in. The safe multi got up. We had a tasty little win there. We picked a lot of fights perfectly on last weekend's card, and just a few results didn't quite go our way, just slightly. So yeah, we've been doing really good. I'm keen to keep up the momentum this week with a really great prediction rate. We're already sitting above 60%, and we're 100% on the locks of the week. Every single lock of the week has cash so far, so I've got another 2 for you this week, so make sure you tune in for those if you want some free money. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Punch-Ons, follow at Punch-Ons MMA on Instagram, and stick around till the end of the video for some multis and for the Cedricas Dumas Nutsack Memorial Punch-Ons Wheel of Doom. We're going to spin that bugger again. I've done my research. I've got the juicy picks this week. Let's dive into these predictions. Time to punch on. Here we go with the first fight of the night. We have Luan Lacerda versus Simon Oliveira. Neither of these guys has a win in the UFC. Oliveira has 3 losses in a row since scraping through the Contender Series with a split decision win. Dana must have been desperate that week. Oliveira's pretty arse, to be honest. He throws awful looking spinning back fists out in the open with no setup. He overextends with his punches all the time and leaves himself in some pretty awful positions. He's got some explosive striking, but just negative defense, and he always puts himself in bad positions when trying to land strikes. He did this consistently against his 3 UFC opponents, David Martinez, Daniel Marcos, and Tony Gravely, all who he lost to convincingly. Lacerda has no wins in the UFC either. He lost both of his UFC fights to getting outstruck by Cody Stamann, and he got TKO'd by Damon Blackshear. The Cody Stamann fight was close though, and it honestly could have gone Luan Lacerda's way. He also made it somewhat competitive with Blackshear, which has aged reasonably well before he got TKO'd. I do like Lacerda's investment in the body, and he does have decent kicks, teeps, and longish levers with his legs. He can wrestle a little bit too. And this one is pretty clear-cut to me. Simon Oliveira is too shit and too irresponsible in defense. I'll take Luan Lacerda to get this one done by TKO or decision. Most likely will be a TKO because Simon Oliveira's chin sucks. And he's chinny to the body somehow too. So, yeah, we'll go with Luan Lacerda getting the win by TKO. We'll go with a body shot TKO to maybe some ground and pound finish. Moving up the card, we have Julia Palastri versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Julia Palastri is a bit of a marauder. She's actually tough as shit. They call her the psycho, and she is a psycho. She had a very close fight with Lupita Godinez, who's actually very good. I rate Lupi. She did get out-wrestled early in that fight, but she still stayed in there, and she got nasty with it in that fight. She showed some good variation in her striking. She threw elbows, knees, dirty boxing in the clinch. Had her hands down. She was taking shots and walking into the fire. I actually like Julia Palastri. She's got like a really nasty tie clinch as well, nasty ground and pound, and is one of the few women's fighters who actually goes for a finish consistently in her fights. So poor old Grandma Kowalkiewicz has got her work cut out here, I reckon. Carolina's last 2 fights have been clear losses to butch Brazilian fighters as well. I think we might see the same result here. Kowalkiewicz is tough, I will give her that. she'll likely make it to the distance in this one, and she might even have some moments. But I reckon Julia Pilastri outstrikes, outdogs, and outdoes her to a competitive 29-28 decision. And it might be the last time we see Karolina Kowalkiewicz in the cage. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Julia Pilastri by a close but clear decision. All right, next up on the card, we have got Walter Walker versus Mo Usman. This one should be in the main card. What are these guys doing with this card placement? Mate, Walter Walker he's a star in the making. He's insane on the mic. He's a character at heavyweight. What's he doing buried this deep down the card on a fight night? Put some respect on Walter Walker's name. Walter, he's coming off 3 wins, but technically, in my opinion, he should be undefeated at 15-0. The lone loss that he had in his career was a decision to Lucas Dresky, and that was a highway robbery. An absolute joke. Walter Walker won that fight clearly. Most impressively in his wins, though, he's coming off 3 heel hook submissions in a row over Junior Tafa, Don'Tale Mays, and Kennedy Nzechukwu. That last one being a pretty decent win that's aging pretty well there. Kennedy's decent. Mo Usman hasn't really done anything special in his 6-fight UFC run. He's kind of famous for being Kamaru Usman's brother, I think. He beat Zach Paunga, Junior Tafa, Jake Collier, and recently he beat Hamdi Abdul Wahab. Neither of those guys gave Mo Usman anything to worry about in the wrestling or the jiu-jitsu in the way that I think Walter Walker is going to. I guess we'll see the grappling of Mo Usman tested here, but I don't imagine it's going to be good enough to deal with the specialist in Walter Walker. There is the chance that Mo Usman is too strong and well-conditioned, roids, and he might be able to shuck off Walter Walker and drag him into deep waters. If that happens, Walker could possibly gas out and go to mush later in the fight, but I'm going to trust in the grappling difference here, and I'm going to pick Walter Walker by ground and pound TKO or maybe submission. He could even get another heel hook here. It's the type of opponent that he can and maybe will heel hook. So I think the submission is in play here as well. Let's go with Walter Walker by submission. I'm actually going to lock this one in too. This is lock of the week, number 1 out of 2. This is Walter Walker, lock of the week. I can't really see Mo Usman beating him. The lock of the weeks, they're still 100% accurate since the start of the channel, and I reckon Walter Walker's a good one to keep that streak alive. We're locking in Walter Walker by finish in round 1 or 2 by, I reckon, submission, maybe TKO, but I reckon he gets a finish here. Mo Usman hasn't been finished, so it could go the distance, in which case maybe I'll get a little bit nervous, but yeah, we're going to go with Walter Walker here. Hopefully he has a big moment on the mic as well. Next fight is Lucas Hosha versus Stuart Nickel. People forget, man. Stuart Nickel, he can grapple this guy. He was very, very close to getting Jesus Aguilar out of there by rear naked choke in the first couple of minutes of their fight. Although that was his one and only fight in the UFC, but he looked like he belonged. He did look like he belonged in the UFC. He made a very small mistake against Jesus Aguilar, and he put his head in the guillotine after a crazy scramble. And unfortunately, MMA is a game of inches, and that was all that Jesus Aguilar, who is a decently crafty UFC experienced guy, that's all he needed to latch up the choke and fluke a sub over Stuart Nickel. Put him to sleep pretty bad. So that was pretty unlucky for Stu Nick. Lucas Hosha, I don't really know a lot about this guy. He's also lost his only UFC appearance. It was a rear naked choke loss to Clayton Carpenter in the Apex. He got pretty dominated in that fight by Clayton Carpenter. Clayton put on a striking and a grappling pace on him, and Hosha couldn't keep up. I'm not as sure that Stuart Nickel will be able to put quite the pace on Hosha like Carpenter did, but I do think Stuart Nickel has the tools to out-grapple Hosha to a submission or maybe a decision win. If I remember correctly, Lucas Hosha has the shortest height and reach in the flyweight division, apparently. He's 5'3" and has a 64-inch reach. I'll take the Aussie to get his first win over Lucas Hosha, but it's not really a confident pick. We'll go with Stuart Nickel by grappling-based and sort of physicality-based decision. Going with Stuart Nickel on this one. Aussie. Let's keep moving up to the next one, which is Bia Mesquita versus Arina Alexieva. This will be a pretty low-level fight. All I have to say about this one is Arina Alexieva is 5-3 professionally. Lost her last 2 fights in the UFC to Claudia Segula and Melissa Mullins. Her one win inside the UFC is a knee bar win over Stephanie Egger. Not really a whole bunch of reasons to be rushing to pick this person yet. Compare that to Bia Mesquita, who's on debut in the UFC, but she was an LFA champion and a multiple-time IBJ Jiu-Jitsu world champion too, I believe. She's coming off 9 wins in a row, some of these just in grappling matches. She's been quite successful in grappling. She submitted Misha Tate and Jennifer Meyer, some of her notable names there. And then she's transitioned to MMA. And in MMA, she's won 3 out of her 5 wins by rear naked choke, 1 by TKO, and 1 by a DQ. I think her opponent got disqualified for an illegal kick. This Bia Mesquita lass reminds me a bit of the chick who fought the other day in Australia. What was her name? Michelle Montague. Just, coming in with a bit of grappling experience, clear kind of resume difference. Nothing really else to base this pick on. I don't, believe it or not, I don't actually watch much women's regional MMA, so I am going to go off stats, the record, and MMA math a bit here. But from what I can gather, I think Bia Mesquita wins this just by nature of having a bit more experience in the grappling, fighting better opponents, and just having a few more feathers in her cap. I'll take Bia Mesquita by rear naked choke in rounds 2 or 3 after breaking and somewhat dominating Irina Alekseeva on the ground. So we'll go with rear naked choke finish for Bia Mesquita. Next up, big boys throwing down. We have Vitor Petrino versus Thomas Peterson. I'm not going to lie, I actually thought this Thomas Peterson guy was a made-up fighter, but here he is in the flesh taking on Vitor Petrino, whose recent move up to heavyweight has been going pretty well for him. He beat Austin Lane only a couple of months ago. Good to see Petrino being active and getting in there against another low-level heavyweight blob in Thomas Peterson. Here we get to see the lighter man skill on offer from Petrino. Petrino's definitely big and powerful enough to be at heavyweight, but he's going to bring a bit of that light heavyweight speed and striking skill that I think will prove to be too much for Thomas Peterson. Peterson is decent. He's got an okay gas tank and mediocre boxing, but that's about it. I don't see Peterson providing Petrino with too many problems here. Peterson's gone win-loss in the UFC. His losses are to Jamal Pogues, and he also got chinned by the great Shamil the Meal Deal Gaziev. His 2 wins have been over Mo Usman and Dontal Mays by sloppy, blobby decision. And just to add a little bit more context, he got chinned by Waldo Cortez Acosta back in 2022, outside the UFC. Thomas Peterson thrives in a sloppy heavyweight blob fest, and I don't really see Petrino allowing this to go there. He won't enter Thomas Peterson's world in the blobby gas-out slop fest. And I also don't see Vitor Petrino sticking his head into a guillotine like he did against Anthony Smith. I reckon this should be a clear-cut striking, strength, and physicality advantage for Vitor Petrino. Fight IQ is the only thing that could possibly bring Petrino undone here, but I am going to confidently pick Petrino by TKO. Could go to a decision, but I reckon Petrino will at least clearly win rounds 1 and 2 in this fight. Maybe TKO / decision, double chance is not a bad play here. But I reckon I'm confidently picking Vitor Petrino. He gets this one done. On to the next one, which is Jafel Filho versus Clayton Carpenter. We mentioned him before. Both of these guys are good. They're solid. Outside the rankings flyweight prospects, I'm actually pretty excited for this fight. I got a bit of hype on both of these guys. Not a whole bunch of hype, just more so I've got my eye on these two. I think they're well matched and this should be a good fight. Jafel Filho fucking smashed O'Day Osborne on the ground. He has a very suffocating top game when he gets it, but he's had a couple of blips on his record as well. He got out-grappled by Alan Nascimento, but that was mainly because he made some mistakes in round 2 and round 3. And he allowed Nascimento to kind of slip off the top of him while they were grappling, and then he just sort of gave up top position for the rest of the round. I reckon he would have learned from that performance. I can't remember the actual order of these fights, but in his Daniel Perez fight, this Jafel Filho we're talking about, in his fight with Daniel Perez let it fly on him in their fight in the early rounds there, and Filho weathered the storm and gritted down really well, and he started throwing back gritted down and threw back in the middle of the exchange, and it turned the tides of the fight, and it put Perez back on the back foot, and then he got him down and got a really slick arm triangle choke. I like that for Filio. He's got a bit of heart, and he's willing to, stand in the pocket and put things back on his own terms, and then he's shown that he can get things to the ground and submit people. Clayton Carpenter is a very strong dude at flyweight. He looks a bit more like a bantamweight or a featherweight. He's a pretty explosive athlete. He's good. I think Clayton Carpenter's quite good. The loss to Tagir Ulanbekov slowed his momentum a fair bit, though. He made some really bad choices in that fight, and he got out-hustled by Tagir as well. Going back through his resume, though, Clayton Carpenter, he hasn't really beaten anyone. His UFC wins, including the Contender Series, are Edgar Chairez, Juan Camilo Ronderos, and Lucas Hosha. Nothing special at all there. I think his skill set is a bit too basic, and he does have the ability to get outworked at times in fights. He will default to a grindy type of grappling fight, and that, from what I can tell and what I've seen of Filio, I think that type of fight will play into Jafel Filio's plan. I think it's fair to say that Carpenter could have a bit of a physicality advantage here, but I'll back the fight IQ, the heart, and the jiu-jitsu of Jafel Filio in this matchup. Filio has a nasty rear naked choke and arm triangle, and he just flows cleanly into his next position on the ground. I think this will be a close, even fight, though. I'm definitely not writing off Clayton Carpenter. I'm making this pick based on a stylistic advantage for Jafel Filio. I think he'll find a submission in this fight. There'll be a lot of time that they spend on the ground. I don't think anyone's getting knocked out here. And I reckon in the amount of time they spend on the ground, Filio will be able to find an opening for some kind of jiu-jitsu-based finish. So I'm going to go with Jafel Filio getting a submission, maybe a decision. He could just rest in dominant positions and keep Clayton Carpenter in losing positions for the majority of the fight. I could see that happening too. So probably going to play the double chance here as well. Jafel Filio by submission or decision. On to the next fight. It is, I believe this is the start of the main card. Yes, it is. So we've got a 6 fight main card. And it's being opened up, oh my goodness, by Lucas Almeida and Michael as well. Holy dooly, this is one of the most wild main card openers we've had for a long time. No, jokes aside, but I actually do not really have any idea who either of these guys are. I'm not being disrespectful. I consider myself to be a pretty hardcore MMA fan, and I've watched a lot of fights and done some deep dives on the channel and stuff. I don't really recall watching either of these guys fight. I couldn't really be fucked doing a whole bunch of research here, so we might just use the coin flip for this one. So why don't we open that one up, and we will go for the coin flip. We'll see what happens. I reckon we'll go heads is Lucas Almeida by decision. Tails is Michael as well by decision. All right. The coin is also tipping with 100% accuracy so far, by the way, after turning up Hedman Shabazian by round 1 KO last week. So we've got a lot of faith in the coin. Let's have a look. It's heads is Lucas Almeida by decision. Tails is Michael as well. Here goes the coin. We have heads again. Ooh, so we're looking at a Lucas Almeida decision win. I don't know why I'm feeling a decision here, but I think it's going to be a decision. Both of these guys probably are decision type of guys. Lucas Almeida, I believe, has been to a few. Michael Aswell, I think he's 1 or 2 fights he's had in the UFC have been decisions. So, yeah, why not? I'm not really too into this fight. We're going to go with Lucas Almeida, coin flip, decision. Let's move on. Ricardo Ramos versus Hamos, I should say, versus Khan Offley. Just having a bit of a giggle at Ricardo Hamos's photo there. He's mewing there by the look of things. Ricardo Hamos is 30 years old and he's had like 16 fights in the UFC. He's another guy I don't really remember watching very often. Nah, look, I do know this guy. It's coming back to me a little bit. He's the guy who got subbed by Julian Erosa after knocking him down and out grappling him, and then he stuck his head into the gilly. And he did the exact same thing against Charles Jourdain the fight before. And then he beat Josh Cooley-Bow by split decision, and he just lost his last fight against Chepe Mariscal. Strange fighter, Hamosh. He likes to throw spinning elbows and random takedowns from weird positions, and he absolutely loves his signature move, which is sticking his head in the guillotine. And he's like Gilly Chinny, if you know what I mean. Like he's easily tapped out by guillotine. Very low tolerance to the guillotine choke. And guess who's got a fucking good one of those, boys? Khan fucking Offley. Oi, mate, fucking Khan Offley. People fucking forget. He's got a mean fucking guillotine choke on him. He got a gilly over Ernie Bracker back in the day, mate. No, look, he's all right, Khan Offley. He's coming off 2 losses in a row. An absolute drubbing to Myron Santos in the Ultimate Fighter finale, and then he most recently lost to Muhammad Naimov by decision. He went 3 rounds with Naimov, which is good experience in the UFC for him, but not ideal having your first 2 losses in the UFC. So his career's clinging on, and he's getting a bit of a bone thrown to him here with Ricardo Ramos. Both of these guys, that Khan Offley has lost to, they're pretty good. I'll give him that. I rate Myron Santos, and I think Muhammad Naimov's all right as well. Offley's striking, look, it's very rudimentary, and his wrestling and jiu-jitsu threat are also not very high. He's just a kind of meathead, forward-moving guy with that caveman style, like me, Khan Offley, me walk forward, me take down, me punch. And then if it's against Myron Santos, me go sleep. So, look, I reckon this is a complete toss-up of a fight. I've already used my coin flip, so I'm not going to go there. I'm actually going to go with Khan Offley fighting out of fucking Melbourne, Australia, mate. Not just because he's Aussie, even though picking the Aussie fighters has been going extremely well for me. I've just got a feeling that Ricardo Ramos is going to do his signature move, and he's going to stick his head in the gilly, and Offley will take his offering. So we're going to go with round 1 submission by Khan Offley. Picking a lot of submissions in this card. Yeah, I'll be staying right away from this one on the punting, I dare say. We're going to go with Khan Offley by submission. Don't worry, boys. The picks are going to get a little bit more confident from here on out. Moving up the main card to Janata Diniz versus Mario Pinto. We got a banger here, boys. Banger alert. Fight of the week. Punch onto the card. Banger incoming here. Maybe it might just be over quickly, this one. Heavyweight hands are getting thrown down here. Mario Pinto, he's on a roll. He landed that laser little tight left hook to knock out his opponent on the Contender Series, and he followed it up with a huge, nasty, tight left hook, right hand, overhand KO on Austin Lane. Nasty stuff by Mario Pinto. He's a bad man as well. A lot of power in those hands. Janata Diniz will be a big step up for him, though, and even though Diniz is not that good, he's still a few levels above Austin Lane in the striking, and he will be Mario Pinto's biggest test in the UFC. If we're going off resume alone, well, Janata Diniz wins this. He's knocked out Austin Lane as well, plus he had 2 other wins in the UFC. He beat Carl Williams, not the one from fucking Underbelly, and he also beat Alvin fucking Goozy Hines. Wait, shit, bro. This guy beat Alvin Hines. We're chucking another lock of the week on this one, boys. Janata Diniz lock. No, I'm not just kidding. That Alvin Hines fight is the exact reason why I'm not picking Janata Diniz. That Goozy dude, he's cool, and he went to war with Diniz, but he's not a top-level UFC fighter, and he gave Diniz problems on the feet. Diniz pieced him up, don't get me wrong. Goozy was looking like a horror movie by the end of that fight, but Diniz should have got him out of there before then. Not a lot to write home about with Janata Diniz, I don't reckon. He got fucking destroyed by Tybura as well, who's an absolute S-tier blob. So this one feels like an easy pick for me. I've got Mario Pinto by a nasty TKO, dropping Janata Diniz bad with something tight like an uppercut or an elbow as they clinch it up. He could also just knock his head off at range. Diniz does have a decent chin, but I can see it getting cracked here. Maybe it goes the distance. It might. I don't know. I just reckon that in 15 minutes of stand-up fighting, which I'm assuming both guys will want this to be, Diniz is a kickboxer and so is Pinto, I think. I think in 15 minutes of stand-up, Pinto is going to land something significant on the chin of Diniz before Diniz can piece him up with his pillow hands. So, yeah, we're going with Mario Pinto, double chance, decision or TKO. I reckon he'll land something, though. Going with Mario Pinto. Next up, we have the funeral of Vicente Luque. His retirement fight. Maybe. I hope not. I do like Vicente Luque. Yoel El Fenomeno Alvarez is moving up to welterweight, winning his last 3 fights and 7 of his past 8. He has 22 wins with 22 finishes. He's only lost to Damir Ismagulov and Arman Saryukian in the UFC, which are very forgivable losses. He's beaten names like Thiago Moises, Mark Jacasey, Elvis Brenner, and Drakkar Klose. Honestly, a little bit overrated is Joel Alvarez in terms of his hype he's had. He's only really beaten he's beaten lower level guys, and a lot of his fights have been cancelled. He is a fucking sick fighter though. Armand's beat his ass, but since then he's had all finishes and he's looked insane in his last couple of fights. The beating he put on Elvis Brenner and Drakkar Klose, they were both quite similar and they were very nasty. Joel Alvarez has a disgusting tie clinch and he goes ham with the knees and elbows if he gets you there. He's a nasty finisher, which is not what you want to hear if you're a Vicente Luque fan, which sadly I am. I'm kind of annoyed at this matchmaking. Why couldn't we get Luque another nice, matchup on his way out, like a Muslim Salikov or a Neil Magny or something? Luque is coming off a round 2 submission loss to Kevin Holland, which is a really bad look for Luque as well. We all thought he was back after that Themba Gorimbo win, but now he draws Yoel Alvarez. So, yeah, it was nice knowing you, Vicente Luque. You will be missed, my brother. It's going to have to be another lock of the week here, guys. I have a feeling Joel Alvarez might take it a little bit easy on Luque out of a little bit of respect. So let's say he gets it done by... We're going to go club and sub instead of like a flatline KO. But, I got a feeling maybe Yoel Alvarez will get a round 1 rear naked choke or a ghillie or something, but the TKO is very likely too. I'm just feeling a lot of submissions on this card, so I'm going to go double chance Joel Alvarez by submission or TKO, and this is my second and final lock of the week this week. So locking it in, Joel Alvarez, lock him in with Walter Walker. I reckon these boys are getting some nasty finishes. All right, moving up to the co-main event. We got another punch-on's favourite here, boys. Deiveson Figueiredo, the legend, Figgy Smalls, is taking on Montel Jackson. Figgy, he's coming off 2 L's, and Montel is on a 6-fight win streak. Figgy is the underdog here, and you know I'm going to be riding with that dog money. Put some fucking respect on Figgy's name. Son, put some respect on it. This is Deiveson fucking Figueiredo we're talking about here. Old or not, he's one of the most scary, dominant, nasty lower weight class fighters we have ever seen. Yes, he's lost some fights lately, but look at the guys he's losing to. Brandon Moreno, don't need to go into that whole ordeal, and that was ages ago. Figgy held his own in that saga. Piotr Jan, one of the best strikers of all time in the lower weight classes. Corey Sandhagen, yeah, look, he dominated Figgy, but he also hurt his knee in that fight. And we just saw how good Corey Sandhagen is. He gave Merab a run for his money in that fight. Look, I guess this one depends on, is Figgy washed? Is his knee healed up? The loss to Sandhagen was only 5 months ago. That is a short time to be healing up and jumping back into a training camp against a dangerous opponent like Montel Jackson, especially at almost 38 years of age. Montel Jackson is good, but he's not that good. He had a very iffy-looking performance against Daniel Marcos, who's decent, but not anywhere near Figgy's level. Yeah, he knocked out Damon Blackshear and Rani Yahya, but Figgy's got Marlon Vera, Cody Garbrandt, Rob Font, Brandon Moreno, Alex Perez, Joseph Benavidez, Tim Elliott, Alejandro Pantoja on his resume. I know Figgy's old. I know he's probably still injured, but I'll be absolutely dirty at myself if I pick Montel and vintage Figgy shows up and whoops his ass. I can see it happening, to be honest. Montel is a bit overrated. I've got Figgy having a crafty performance, winning by looking more dangerous on the ground and in the clinch, and getting a 30-27 decision over Montel. I reckon it'll be a close, gritty fight, but I got Figgy, man. It's like the main event from last weekend. Pick the path I don't want to happen, and then it's win-win, which technically means I should go with Montel Jackson. Nah, fuck that. We're riding with Figgy Smalls. He's going to get it done by decision. Let's go with Deiveson Figueiredo, bouncing back against Montel Jackson, putting a stop to his momentum, and Figgy's back in the mix. Figgy by decision, maybe TKO. We'll see what happens. I'm going to go with decision. And finally, we have arrived at the main event of this UFC Fight Night. It is Charles Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot. Charles de Bronx, he's getting a new opponent here on kind of short-ish notice. Rafael Fiziev backs out of the fight and up steps the gamer himself, Mateusz Gamrot. Very, very underrated fighter is Gamrot. He just beat Ludovic Klein, who a lot of people were very high on. He's a good fighter, and Gamrot out-grappled him to a unanimous 30-27 decision. You know, you could have easily given Gamrot the Dan Hooker decision too, and I wouldn't call you insane. Bit of a tosser, but not a total fuckwit, if you reckon that Gamrot won that fight. Gamrot's beaten some pretty big names too. He's beaten RDA, Fiziev, sort of, Jalen Turner, Arman Saryukian, Diego Ferreira, Jeremy Stevens. Bro, Gamrot's resume is kind of cooking, to be honest. If he gets a win over Charles Oliveira, he cannot be that far away from a legitimate claim at a title shot. Gamrot's such a well-rounded, smart and tactical guy. I really like his fighting style and his fight IQ, even if it doesn't always lead to the most exciting fights. He's always hustling, Gamrot, and he can give a lot of these guys problems at lightweight. And then we have Charles Oliveira, coming off the most devastating loss of his career, a humiliation against Ilia Topuria, who tossed him around, put him in the crucifix, and then just nuked him into the Shadowlands. A very mixed bag from Charles Oliveira since he lost the belt. He had that stunning KO win over Beneil Dariush, a split decision loss to Arman, an uninspiring win over Michael Chandler by decision, and then, of course, the disaster class against Ilia Topuria. It's not good signs for me for a Charles Oliveira who's at the tail end of his UFC career. Gamrot is still climbing to the top of his mountain. He's still hungry. He's still got the drive, still motivated to win and get to the belt. Oliveira's been sleeping on those silk sheets for some time now. I think that's going to be a factor. Stylistically, Oliveira, he will pose a threat to Gamrot. But I do think he's becoming increasingly ineffective on the feet as he gets older. But Gamrot, you know, it's gonna. I still think this will be a fair bit of wrestling in this fight, and Gamrot's still going to be grappling with Charles Oliveira. You do not want to be on the ground with this guy. Get out of there. You know what I mean? But I reckon Gamrot will want to be in there. He's defensively sound and he's smart in his grappling, and he's smart about when he changes positions. Pause. And he will absolutely have respect for Charles's ground game, I reckon. He will have a lot of respect for Charles, and he'll keep himself safe in the grappling. This could also lead to more stand-up than we expect from these guys, but it's 5 rounds. There's definitely going to be some grappling exchanges in this fight, and I can honestly see Gamrot getting the better of him. Gamrot has built a career off winning close, grindy decision fights by mixing in the wrestling with his adequate level of striking. His stand-up's not that bad, really. He's got the sort of Marab style. Ugly as fuck and not exactly by the books, but it's just built on his crashing game, the threat of the takedown, and the angles that he can create with his wrestling. And it's effective, like it is for Marab. It's very effective. He's a pressure-style fighter, and I can see Charles Oliveira having problems with the pressure that he brings. I can see this going 5 rounds. I don't think that getting chinned by Ilia Topuria automatically means you're going to get put out by Mateusz Gamrot. But I do think that Oliveira is going to be tentative on the feet, and he'll be content to grapple and clinch a bit with Gamrot. There's always, you know, a chance that Oliveira lands some damaging clinch knees, or maybe he latches up a submission. But I honestly think Gamrot's a guy with a better chance of winning this. Gamrot by decision was my early lean when I first saw this fight announced. And I was originally leaning to Fiziev as well. And while I do think this is a better fight for Olives, I still can't find it in myself to pick him in this one. You've got to look at what this guy's done lately, which, to be honest, goes against my logic of picking Figgy, but oh well. I think Figgy's fight is a lot more winnable than this one is for De Bronx. Heart is saying Charles. Head says Gamrot. I think the Brazilian home crowd is a major factor here, and maybe they could will Charles to a win, or maybe they'll sway the judges' scorecards if it's a really close fight. But look, the analyst in me sees this one for a Mateusz Gamrot decision win, where maybe Charles has some good moments, but ultimately he can't keep up with the pace of Gamrot or the physicality advantage that he has. I think Gamrot's going to show up in great shape, and he's going to put a bit of a work on Charles Oliveira. Look, I wouldn't be surprised with any outcome of this fight, to be honest. I'm not that confident with picking Gamrot. I am very much looking forward to watching this fight. Unfortunately, I think that all good things must come to an end, and I'm feeling this way about a 35-year-old Charles Oliveira coming off a horrendous knockout loss 4 months ago. I don't think this is Charles's fairy tale ending. I think this could be a good spot for Charles to retire. He would like to go out on top, but I don't know if it's going to happen here. And I hope that if he does lose this one, that he still considers retiring, because I don't want to see him chasing that one more win and going down the Tony Ferguson path. So, yeah, we're going to go with the gamer. We're going with Mateusz Gamrot. Maybe the main event curse stays alive and we get a sick Charles the Bronx KO win, but I'll believe that when I see it. So we're picking, the official Punch-On's pick here is Mateusz Gamrot by decision in a close fight. All right, legends, thank you for staying around until the end of the video. Here is your reward. You've got a couple of multis coming your way. The first one is the safe multi of the week. Gamble responsibly. Nothing is safe, but the safe multi was pretty safe last week. We did hit this one last week. I've got a few extra legs on this one, but I feel like this whole thing's pretty safe this week. First leg is going to be Volta Walker. He's getting a finish, TKO or submission. Maybe you could just put that one instead to fight will not go the distance. That could be an option. But, yeah, I think Volta Walker's going to get another sub there. So Volta Walker's the first leg. Vitor Petrino, he's got a bit of momentum at the moment. He's up at heavyweight. He's against Thomas Peterson. He's shit. I reckon Petrino's going to make this one look pretty easy and should get a finish here. Petrino by TKO's going in the multi. Mario Pinto, I'm pretty confident about this guy as well. Let's chuck him in. Now, I'm going to put him in by double chance TKO or decision. I've got a bit of a funny feeling about this one. I'll talk about that a little bit in the next multi as well, because he's in that one too. So double chance, Mario Pinto, TKO or decision. That's got to be in there. Yoel Alvarez, very, very safe. He's one of the locks of the week as well. He's going to go in there. I think he'll finish Vicente Luque. If he takes it to a decision, he's probably doing it on purpose. So I reckon he should finish him. TKO or submission for Yoel Alvarez. And then Mateusz Gamrot, look, I think this guy's going to win. Maybe if you're going to leave a leg out, this could be the one to leave out, because a lot of people I know are going to be riding with Charles de Bronx this weekend. I'm going to chuck Gamrot into my multi. I'll have a look at it and see if it gets to that point and there's a cash out riding. I'll have a think about it because I'm not the most confident, but I reckon Gamrot should still get this one done. So there's your 5-leg multi for the safe multi. It is Volta Walker, Vitor Petrino, Mario Pinto, Yoel Alvarez, and Mateusz Gamrot. That leaves us with the sicko multi for this week. It is less legs, but they're a little bit more stanky. They're a bit more on the nose, these legs. So here's our 4-leg multi this week. The first leg of that is Julia Polastri. There's something about this chick, eh? They call her the psycho. She got them crazy eyes. I reckon she'd go off like a frog in a sock. I'm going to pick her to have a nasty win over Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I reckon she'll win either by a decision, which is most likely and a pretty good bet with women's MMA in general. Maybe she'll win by TKO. So I'm going to go double chance for Julia Polastri. Second leg of this one is Jafel Filho. Jafel Filho is an underdog in his fight against Clayton Carpenter. So, I don't know. I see it the other way. I think it's only a pretty close odds. I think he's paying $2 or something. But I had to snap that one up. I was picking him before I even saw the odds. I like his grappling. I think he'll get this one done by submission or maybe a control-based decision. So I'm going to go double chance for Jafel Filho, submission or decision. Then we got my boy Khan Offley in there. Khan Offley is going to shock the world and get a submission guillotine win. He could also get a decision win. So I'm just going to chuck that one in there too, it'll drop the odds down a little bit, but it will make me feel a bit more safe as this fight goes into the later rounds and maybe Offley's up 2-0 and checks out or something. So I'm going to chuck Khan Offley in there. Not my most confident. Remember, this is the sicko multi, so take it with a grain of salt. And then I've got Mario Pinto in there by decision. Janata Deniz has got a pretty solid chin. I don't know if he's been chinned. So there's a chance that Pinto just stays on the back foot and schools him up but doesn't quite get the finish. Maybe this is also a double chance here, but I reckon if you put it down as Pinto by decision, those odds should go up a little bit. So there's your sicko multi for the week. It's Julia Polastri by TKO or decision, Jafel Filho, submission or decision, Khan Offley, submission or decision, Mario Pinto by decision. Good luck with your punting this week, fellas, and I hope I have a bit of luck as well. I need it. I'm fucking broke. I need some fucking money. Okay, only one thing left to do this week, and that is to spin the Cedricus Dumas Nutsack Memorial Punch-Ons Wheel of Doom. Wheel of Doom's ready to strike again this week. I wonder who is going to be the victim of its inflicting. Here we go. The Wheel of Doom for this weekend's card. Ooh, damn, we got a good one for once. We got an early banger KO. So we're talking knockout in the first minute of the fight. Who are we going to give this one to? KO, like a nasty KO in the first minute of the fight. Not happening in the main event. Don't think Montel's going to sleep Figgy or vice versa. Do I need to go any further? Do I need to go any further than Joel Alvarez and Vicente Luque? I don't think I need to go any further. Petrino, might sleep him. Walker, look, sorry, boys. Sorry to all the fans of Vicente Luque out there. I don't want to have to inflict the doom on Luque, but the wheel has spoken. It's spoken to me, and it's told me that this 1 minute early banger KO is going to be dished out by one Yoel El Fenomeno Alvarez, and sadly, the Dark Knight himself, Vicente Luque, is going to be slept within the first minute or two of the fight. Maybe club and sub based off that hectic drop. But yeah, sadly, not how I wanted that to end, but it's a realistic one. The Punch-On's Wheel of Doom has spoken, and it is targeting Vicente Luque this week. So let's hope it's wrong this week, eh? That is going to be it for the predictions this week, boys. UFC Fight Night, Oliveira versus Gamrot. I can't wait to watch these fights. Can't wait to see how they go. You know the predictions are going to be on point this week. We got look, I'm feeling really good about it. I think we're going to go 80% plus again, back to where we belong. So if you liked the video this week, if you enjoyed the predictions, if you like the breakdowns, if you like the betting advice, if you've won a couple of bucks off me, then hey, just repay us, give us a little like on the video, subscribe to the channel, make sure you follow me on Instagram at PunchOnsMMA. All you gotta do is like and subscribe, boys. I'm trying to build up that little audience here, and I reckon we can get it going. A few more good picks. The main event curse is getting broken this week. I can feel it. It's going to be a good card. I reckon it's going to be a bit like that Aussie card where there's going to be a whole bunch of hometown boys getting the wins. Maybe I should have factored that into my decision-making a bit more, but hey, it is what it is. The Punch-On's brain, it's already locking in on what it knows is going to win. It's already got the right decisions pre-made. So if you did enjoy this week's content, you know what to do, boys. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Punch on.